This is Robert Harper with Virginia Farm Bureau's Grain Division. Thankful and glad today to bring you the Merchandiser Minute. It's Friday, March the 31st, 2023, and let's take a look after a week full of information from outside influences, inside influences, and the U.S. government, full of information that have impacted your futures price. Let's start off with your May corn contract, up a beautiful 17 cents a bushel this week to close at $6.60 in Chicago. December corn new crop contract up 6 cents for the week at $5.66 a bushel. May soybeans up 77 cents this week to close at $15.05 today on the Chicago board. And your new crop soybean contract November up 46 cents a bushel this week to close at $13.19. When we take a look at Chicago wheat, the May contract up 4 cents, almost a nickel at $6.92. And same thing goes for your new crop July wheat contract, up 4 cents a bushel after trading for 5 days this week to close at $7.04. We're going to get into some of those influences, but it's really interesting here as we close the week out, as we close the month out, and as we close the quarter out. It was a really interesting weather situation here in Virginia coming into March. Most of y'all had adequate moisture through February, and a lot of folks have been very dry through the month of March, but lots of you all, and the data showing this week rainfall across Virginia to close the month out. We saw a lot of interesting weather this week in the upper Midwest. We know in some places we had near record cold, and we look across both the eastern and the western corn belt. It looks like sitting here today on March 31st, we can still get the soybean and the corn crop planted on time. We've got plenty of time, but it doesn't look like an early jump start in those production states to planting. When we think about weather for next week, we've got big rain forecasted for the Delta states and the Tennessee River Basin. They are expecting in certain parts of the upper Midwest and northern plains some flooding if they get the rain, and in some cases snowfall that's being forecast. There's been lots of stormy weather, rough weather y'all have been following for really over 2 months now in California. It looks like coming into the next few weeks that's going to be a little bit subsided, so the folks there are glad for that. And the same old story in the heart of the hard red wheat country, dry for the next 10 days. We know drying conditions have been across Brazil over the last few weeks. The soybean harvest there, most estimates have it past 70% now. And we know those vessels are going all over the world. Soybeans are flowing out of Brazil just like they should be this time of year. Again, most estimates have the Brazilian soybean harvest past 70%. It looks like they do have some rain in their forecast where they're cutting at in the upcoming week. We'll see how that plays out. Argentina, rain in the north in the coming week and continued dryness in the south. So lots to think about on weather. It was a special day. We got a lot of data today from USDA on Independence Avenue. It was great to be with a group of Virginia Farm Bureau members. We took a trip up to American Farm Bureau today. We had a tour there. We got to go through the lockup procedure with USDA National Ag Statistics. Got to see the information. Chief Economist Lance Honig present that information to the Ag Secretary today, his designate, and then we had a great opportunity to meet some agricultural counselors at the Canadian Embassy. So a great day today. We're going to get to those numbers in just a few minutes. We're looking around before we get to those numbers. Other headlines this week, we saw Ukraine put out some numbers on exports down 17% year over year, citing due to smaller harvested acres as well as logistical problems getting those bushels moved. We also saw this week some interesting comments from lots of folks. I think this has been brewing in a while. I haven't had my eye on this, but it looks like some Ukrainian grain, a significant amount in the view of a lot of folks in the Polish agricultural industry. Some Ukrainian grain, a lot of it has been moving into Poland. It's depressed prices, and even this week we saw the European Union Ag Commissioner make some comments about discussing curbing Ukrainian ag exports into Poland. So just another sign of the politics over there, struggles over there. You can't talk about what happened this week again in any way without talking about flash corn sales to China. Just remarkable. This was week 3 to get that daily flash sales announcement from USDA around 9 a.m. to see that China continues to buy U.S. corn. We know when you look at the math, In most cases, U.S. corn is cheaper than Brazilian corn right now. It looks like the price fell far enough on the Chicago board that China was ready to start buying, and from most accounts, the corn that Argentina was able to produce and will be able to produce, even if it rains in a second crop there, they're going to need that for most of it, if not all of it, for their own feeding needs. So China's not going to be able to go there and load a lot of boats. So we're getting some China corn business, and y'all seen how that's helped rally the futures price. And speaking of corn, the ethanol report this week, we had a big drawdown on stocks. Looks like the blenders were using it a lot, even with some rough weather in parts of the country. Stocks down 2.5% to 25.5 million barrels of ethanol. Looks like week over week we're just about the same on production, right around 1 million barrels per day. So lots of good information there, lots of things to talk about. One of the stories that caught my eye this week, probably the most important one that I saw. Please go and read about this. We're gonna see a lot more of this in the future. China and Brazil at a pretty high level. At a conference they had this week, this has probably been going on for a long time, but it was announced that they are approving a process to get away from the US dollar and how they trade back and forth with each other. Y'all, this is the biggest, I would say, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest story that I've seen come across the tiny desk that I sat at this year as it involves U.S. Relationships around the world and U.S. trade. So just read about that for yourself. China and Brazil come into agreement where they're going to attempt to try to get away from the U.S. dollar and how they both trade with each other. So what happened today, the end of the month, end of the quarter, we know March 31st, the good folks at USDA National Ag Statistics have spent several weeks with a target date of March the 1st. They've spent some time before that date and some time after that date surveying a whole lot of farmers here in Virginia and around the United States on prospective planting intentions. What are you, the farmer, going to plan on or intend to plant? What was your opinion on March the 1st? So farmers in Virginia are intending to plant 540,000 acres of corn. That's 90,000 acres higher in 2022. We know fertilizer prices are where they were in here everywhere last year. Corn acres here went down, and y'all responded with corn acres going up this year for probably several reasons, but one of them certainly would be fertilizer prices and nitrogen prices coming down some. When we take a look at the U.S. number, a bit of a surprise there. It came in above most trade expectations. U.S. corn growers intend to plant 92 million acres of corn. That's up 4% from last year. So it was exciting. Again, fertilizer, maybe hoping for some of the drought areas in the western belt will be getting some rain and they can plant more, and they got to get their rotations back in line, et cetera, et cetera. So 540,000 acres of corn intended to be planted in Virginia, 92 million in the U.S. When we look at soybeans, 580,000 acres of beans here in the Commonwealth. That's down 40,000 acres from the survey data showed from last year. When we look at the U.S. total soybean acres, 87.5 million in the U.S. That was up just slightly from last year, but I think most analysts thought that estimate today came in under the trade expectation. Most analysts thought you all were going to say you were going to tend to plant a few more soybean acres than that. So U.S. corn, 92 million, U.S. bean, 87.5. There's a lot more data points on that. Take a look at that information. It'll help you in making decisions in your operation. The other big chunk of information National Ag Statistic put out today was the quarterly stocks report. What was in the bin on March the 1st? Corn stocks down 5% from March of 2022, so that's good from a price moving up perspective. Soybean stocks down 13%. So we know we've had great exports on soybeans. All y'all that work at that have done a great job, and so that number showed it, down 13%. All wheat stocks down 8%. A lot of factors to go into that. Let's take a look at what these bushels look like, what was in the bin on farm and off the farm March the 1st. That turned out to be 7.4 billion bushels of corn, 1.6 billion bushels of soybeans, and 946 million bushels of wheat. So lots of data. We'll take it into consideration. The traders, the commercials, you, the producer, will do something else over the weekend. We'll come back Sunday night. We'll start trading all this again. Give Josie or I a call if we can help you. We've got some very interesting basis bids around the state, a lot going on, whether we're talking wheat, corn, or beans. Give us a call. This is Robert at Virginia Farm Bureau's Grain Division.